Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special episode of PAOK Talk. We are your hosts, Angelo and Jono. Jono, how are you today?
Angelo, a very special Christmas edition, shall we
Oh,
say,
that's
eh?
right. We should put some little Christmas music on. Hang it. It's all right.
Yeah, come on, Angelo, man. These pre-production meetings are for nothing. I just talk all the time and you don't listen. Yeah, welcome to everyone, and probably what will be our last episode for the year, I'd say.
Yeah, you never know. We might get that big transfer, but yeah, probably the last episode for the year. We have a mid-season report card that we're going to be giving. We're going to grade about 20 or so players, 18 to 20 players on PAOK, and we're going to give their mid-season report card grade. And then we're going to give a little special thing at the end where we give three things that we think are going to happen for the second half of the season. It could be any three things. It could deal with transfers, with players, with results, with standings, with anything relating to PAOK. We're going to give three big things that will happen. I'm looking forward to today, John. Are you?
Yeah, 100%. I want to, and we haven't, like we were just discussing off air, we haven't told each other the three things that we've come up with. So, it'll be interesting to see if we have any crossover and that sort of thing. And the report card too will be good. So I'm looking forward to all of it. It should be a fun episode.
Yeah, so a couple things I want to preface by saying is one, we're not going to debate the grades. I'm going to give my grades. Jono's going to give his grades, and we're not going to go back and forth. And two, like we said, we haven't talked about our big things, so it's going to be the first time the listeners are hearing yours. I'm going to be hearing it too. So there we may be able to give a little feedback back and forth. But without further ado, let's begin. Before we begin the report card, we're just going to touch on the Panathinaikos game. Obviously, it's a big game. It was a good win in terms of getting the 3 points. I don't think we played well. I think the first half we played really, really poor, especially the first 15, 20 minutes or so. They controlled the game. It just looked to me like we were a bit slow, a step slow. It looked like they wanted it more. They were attacking more. If it was just a random foreigner watching the game, they would look at the first 20 minutes and say, "Oh, well, that team's way better," and they'd be talking about Panathinaikos, right? That's the team that is competing for the title. We just looked a little disheveled. We looked out of place. I think we got it more towards halftime, and then in the second half we came out, and I think that we looked a lot better in the second half. It's just so we're not going to be able to come out like that against other teams. We saw what happened when we didn't play our best against Aris. They won, right? We got lucky this game that we got to win. I'm happy with it, but I would say probably a draw would be a fair result for both teams. We had more chances, but they had more. It was the possession, I think, was 60-40 maybe. At one point, I remember the second half they showed it. But it was just useless possession. It was a wasted possession for us. In our defensive half, we had the ball, moving it back and forth. But in our attacking third, we didn't use that possession to get opportunities. And I think that's the difference. And that's why I don't like looking at possession stats. Because what do you do with that possession is what's important in the game, right? You could have 90% of the ball if you're just passing it back from your right back to your center back to your left back to the holding mid, back to the center back. But, you have to do something with it. And I don't think we did. And it goes back to not having that creative presence in the midfield. I like our goals that we scored. I think both goals were good goals. I think they were clean goals. We could have had a couple other opportunities, but as I mentioned before, I'll let you talk on the subject. I'm happy with the 3 points. If you didn't get those 3 points, I think it'd be a way different outlook going into the second half. We'd be looking at, do we just do a fire sale? Do we just get rid of everyone and start new? But I'm happy that we got the 3 points. I'm happy that it's that conversation and still giving us hope. Because I think if we lost, we'd have no hope at winning the title. Now there's a slimmer chance, but what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. The most important thing is the 3 points. It was just a must win, and we did that. Yeah, like you said, unconvincing at times, but for me, the result was all that mattered. I'm just happy that we won. Something that I need to say, very, very happy, and shout out to Dutch Eagle, our friend Nico, who of course was on our preview episode before the PSV game. He called it. He said, and I am very happy that we were able to score from a corner. We actually looked more dangerous from a couple of set pieces, which was a nice change. So hopefully that's something we can build on going into the second half of the season, because, I mean, sometimes you need a cheap goal, and you can get, and when I say cheap, I mean like, a goal where you get a free cross into the box, which is what a set piece allows you. So hopefully that's something we can improve on. So I was really happy with that. Something I just wanted to throw back to you before we move on to the ratings. Thomas Merg, so kind of started well. How did you see him playing as the attacking midfielder? So you're talking about we need that attacking threat from the midfield. He did it a couple games ago. I can't remember against who, and wasn't great. How did you see him against Panathinaikos?
Kind of the same thing. I mean, it wasn't anything. It wasn't standoutish. I mean, if you look at the two and who we replaced, Pelkas, I'd much rather have at this point, right? I mean, would you agree with that?
I mean, it's funny you say that, because Pelkas was one of the most highly criticized PAOK players ever, as we tend to do, not ever, but in recent times, as PAOK fans tend to do. They tend to get on the back of the Greeks, and particularly the ones that have come through the academies. They tend to criticize them a lot heavier than they do foreigners. So Pelkas was highly criticized, and I remember listening to some Greek radio at the time, and there were some presenters that were saying, Pelkas is gone. There will come a time where PAOK fans will be remembering and basically crying over Pelkas leaving. And I think we're almost at that point where a lot of people, Merg hasn't set the world on fire as of yet. And yeah, I think, people are a little bit, they miss him a little bit, not that he was a world beater, but yeah, I mean, he always worked hard. Even if he wasn't having a great game attackingly, he always worked hard. So
right.
There's still a long way to go, and I'm interested. I'm pretty sure you graded Thomas Merg, so we'll see what you've rated him.
Yeah, all right, so let's go ahead. I had, I'll go first. I had Zivkovic. And so how we're going to go about it is we're going to give maybe one or two sentences about the player, then we're going to give the grade, and then we'll go to the next player. So we'll just go back and forth, nice and simple, nice and quick. So I had Zivkovic, good solid keeper for us. I think if you've listened to this podcast before, I'm a fan of his. He can't make the extraordinary save. He doesn't have the reflexes or the aerial capability of a Paschalakis, but who he is as a goalkeeper, I think is very good for the team we are. If we were in the Champions League, I would say he's not a good Champions League keeper, but I think for us who we are, I think he's doing well, and I gave him a B+.
So I have my first one was Paschalakis. So my comments are generally going to be a lot briefer than what you just gave. So Paschalakis, that's always the case. Statistically good, performance-wise, not convinced. C+ for Paschalakis.
Yeah, and this one will be quick too for me. Rodrigo, I have him. He's doing better than last year. I think it has to do with him getting more playing time this year. Solid player, does what is asked. Still missing that key component, so I'm gonna give him a B-.
Nice. Giannoulis, fantastic start to the season. Hasn't bounced back from COVID. A B.
Ingesson. I think he's been the best defender this year. He's the one player that deserves to be written in as a starter every single game. I'm going to give him an A-.
Nice. Michailidis. He's shown potential, but needs to improve some aspects of his game. Inconsistent at this stage of his career. A C for Michailidis.
Varela. He's lost his touch this year. He could still have decent games, but he's very average overall. I think he's more important to us as a leader than as a field player right now. So I'm going to give him a C.
Crespo still has a part to play on the team, even if I believe Father Time is beginning to catch up with him. A C for Crespo.
I know we were talking about whether to do Pereira or not. I did, but in a little different way. We haven't seen him enough, so I'm going to give him a satisfactory, which is, okay, he's done okay, but we haven't been able to judge him enough. I mean, when he goes in, he does okay, right? I mean, I can't give him an A, I can't give him an F, so I'm gonna give him a satisfactory.
I like that on the fly. Nice. Final defender from me, Waguer. So we're starting to find his rhythm, and then of course disaster struck with his injury. His final act in a PAOK shirt, a very brave one, a C for Musa Waguer and his season with us.
Merg, I think this is an interesting one. I was high on him at first. I think he did well in the first couple of games, but since then he's slowed down. He's looked rough in a few games lately, kind of invisible. And he has big shoes to fill with him being the anti-Pelkas. So I'm only giving him a C plus.
Augusto, so looking good coming back from injury. Needs to play as a box-to-box midfielder and not as a defensive midfielder or a number 6. C plus.
Schwab, pretty much the same for me as Merg. He looked really solid at first, but the last couple of games he's kind of gone to the wayside. I think he's a great leader. I think he makes some solid passes. He works really hard. He's a great person to have downfield. So I'm going to up him a little bit to a B minus.
Omar El Kaduri, superb for the majority of the season, bar a minor blip on the radar for a couple of games there. Must re-sign him. I've given him an A.
Nanua, I think he needs to be given more time. His set pieces themselves are a reason why he should be playing. I think without him, we will have lost. I think there was 2 games we scored free kicks, 1 or 2 games. I could see us dropping more points than we should have. So I'm going to give him a B minus.
Anderson Asidi does what he's capable of when he's asked to. He needs to be better utilised by the coaching staff. A C for Asidi.
Cigaras. It's funny that you gave me him because I was one of his biggest critics. I would give him an F in his first game, but since then he's done well. Once he found his feet and found his natural position, and Garcia put him in a position to succeed. So I'm going to move him up to a C plus right now, but I think if he continues on the track that he's shown the last couple of games, he'll go up to a B.
Solis, plenty of big goals in big matches, fearless. The sky really is the limit if he can remain grounded. Maybe unlucky not to get an A. I've given him a B plus, just missed out on an A.
Andrei Zivkovic. The last few games he's slowed down. Right, I mean, at the beginning of the year, he's on fire. But the last couple games, I think he's been trying to do too much. He's been trying to take over the games, and he needs to realize that's not who he is. He's not going to be able to go in and out of players with the quick feet, like he was earlier. But he's still one of our better players, and so far for overall year, I've given him an A minus.
Diego Bizesvad, a shadow of the player he once was for us. He looks disinterested when he gets on the pitch, and I think everyone knows it's time for him to move on in January. It really pains me to say it, but I have to give him an F.
And Cholak, I'm actually going to give him a no grade, as if he hasn't shown up, because he really hasn't. I mean, when he's gone in, he's barely touched the ball, he's looked invisible, and I'm going to get to this later, my 3 things. It's like he hasn't even shown up. So I'm going to give him a no grade. Someone that's just skipping school. So I guess you could say an F too.
Well, that's. I mean, I think that's fair. And my final player, as we wrap up our ratings for the first half of the season, Svidevski, our top scorer in the league. He needs to find ways to keep himself involved when he's not scoring, and I think he showed a little bit of that on the Panathinaikos in our first goal, which he scored. So I've given him a B.
Awesome. Yeah, so I actually agree with a lot of yours that you've said. I don't know what you've thought about mine, but I like this. I thought it was interesting. So if you're listening and you disagree with anything that any of us have said, please, voice your opinion on whether it's Twitter, Instagram, the YouTube comments. Please voice your opinion. So before we go on to the 3 things, anything you want to add on?
I think I will say we kind of had a discussion off air about the grading systems in Australia and America. So we don't have minuses in Australia, so that's why I gave no minuses. So there might be a bit of discrepancy in what Angelo and I actually think of the players, just based on our the different systems. But nah, that's all. I mean, did you want to give the team a grade for the whole?
Oh yeah, let's do that. Yeah, we said we were gonna do that. So we haven't talked about this either. Jono hasn't heard my opinion. I haven't heard his. So we figure we'll give the team a grade, and that's everything. So coach, organization, team, Europe, Super League, everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I'll let you go first, so I can still think about it after what you said. Good. So how would you grade the team as a whole? So we're including Europe, we're including preseason expectations, and how maybe they changed in the middle of season or in the middle of the first half of the season. So what would the grade be for your mid-season report card for the PAOK FC team?
So I look at it as we had 3 goals starting the season, right? So we wanted to get into the Europa League. That's a tick. We got into the Europa League. Once that played out, we saw our group. We wanted to qualify for the group out of the group stage into the knockout phase of the Europa League. We didn't manage that, disappointingly, so that's a cross. And in terms of the league, so we go into the halfway point. Admittedly, we haven't played Olympiacos, which is going to be a key game, or which would have been a key game. So we're currently 5 points behind the top of the table in 3rd position. 5 points isn't bad. So, I mean, I probably want it to be a little bit closer, probably 3 or less if possible. That's an indifferent. I'd probably go on to Angelo's minuses and give us a B minus. We achieved some things. We're not out of the title race. So yeah, I'd say a B minus for our first half of the season. Do you agree, disagree? Am I too soft a marker? What are your thoughts?
So for me, I looked at it 2 ways. I looked at it where we are right now. You know, we crashed out of the Europa League, but we're still within striking distance of Olympiacos. But I also have to look into how we've played, and I don't think we've played well at all. I mean, even in the games where we've won in Europe, you know, we haven't had the possession. We understand that we're not going to be having the possession. You're right. Those games, now that I'm thinking about it, those games we played well. But in the Europa League, we only played 1 good game from start to finish. The PSV game. After that, we either played well in a half or a quarter of a game.
Even that, sorry to cut you off, Angelo. You're talking about the game at Duba. We were 1 down at halftime.
You're right. So it's only a half we played well, right?
Yeah, second half we exploded. We were fantastic, but that first half was poor.
Right. So we played 6 games, right? 5 games.
In the Europa League group stage, it was 6 games.
6, okay. So out of the 12 possible halves, we played good maybe 2 or 3 halves, if that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the first half of the away leg to PSV, the second half of the home leg, and then maybe a Granada half or 2, mm-hmm. Right? So I'm looking at it that way. How have we played? Not the results, because results are an iffy kind of situation, because at the end of the season, I'm a believer in how you play, it's going to even out. So if we're playing bad and we've gotten lucky with the results, the second half won't be so lucky, if you understand what I'm saying. So I'm going to give us, I'm going to be harsh, I'm going to give us a C minus in terms of our level of play. In terms of where we are right now going into the second half, I'd guess a C plus. A B minus in terms of being within striking distance of first place. I think we're lucky to be where we are. I think we're going to have to make a lot of changes in the second half how we play. So, you know, a C minus, B, C, yeah, a C minus, a B minus, C plus, around that range. I'll go out. I'll just say a C. I think that's in the middle. But you know, if you're looking at our style of play of our play on the pitch, it's not good. It's ugly at times for a team of our caliber and our history and all that. It's pretty ugly. But if you're looking at results and where we are, I'd give us a B minus, C plus. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand you. And I mean, I'd probably, like, our performances wise, I'm with you. We've showed glimpses. Even then, halves haven't necessarily even been a good full half. There's been a good 20, 30 minute period, and then we can, then we'll drop off and then bounce back up in the second half for another 20 minutes. But yeah, for me, bottom line, football is a results business, and especially in Greece, it is a results-driven business. If you're winning, like I would argue, under Lucescu, we didn't play badly, but we didn't maybe play the best football that I've ever seen PAOK play, but we got results and we won things. Mm-hmm. And Lucescu will forever be hailed as a hero for that. So I think especially in Greece, but in most football leagues, if you get results and win things, that's all that matters. So yeah, but no, I think your gripes and your concerns with our performances are justified, and something we need to improve on heading into the second half of the season.
Yep, sounds good. So, how do you want to do this? Do you want to do 1 and 1 for the 3 things? Do you want to give your 3 things first, or my 3 things first? How do you want to do this? Do you want to alternate?
So I think we'll go one person does all 3. So if you can start this one if you want, and give viewers and the listeners and myself your 3 things that you think will happen in the second half of the season.
Okay, sounds good. So you want me to go first?
Yep, go for it.
Okay, so my 3 things I think are going to happen in the second half of the season. Okay, 1, I think PAOK will sign a big-name striker loanee. I think that Cholak is not going to do it this year. I think there's too many mental things going on. I think that we will loan him out, and we will bring in someone from a big league that is not playing as much as they wanted to, and it's going to give us kind of like a jolt at our forward position because competition is good. So even if they're not starting, Swiderski will start, this unnamed player will start, and they'll just go back and forth. That practice will make both of them better. So that's my first thing, is that we're going to sign a big name, maybe not big name, but from a big team loan.
Do you have a name for us, Angela?
No, that's Pascalis' job, but he's not doing his job. He's not doing his job at all. You called him out on it. He needs to make sure he's doing his job so I can have sources to cite. So if you're listening to this, Pascalis, which I know you will, you need to tell me these names. Okay. Second, I think Zivkovic, the goalkeeper, will regain his starting position. I hope it's not in a big situation, but I think Pascalakis is going to flub a ball or two. He's been solid since he's gone in, but history has shown, history doesn't lie, that he can maybe have a game or 2 where he's off. So I'm going to say Zivkovic will regain his starting spot for the playoffs. And then my third... Go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to say on that, you're already just like Pascalakis has already made mistakes. He just hasn't been punished, and we saw on the weekend. That's fair, right? Free kick, right, against Panathinaikos, which he really should have dealt with a lot better than what he did.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Yep. And then my third thing, which is pretty ballsy, and it's led me to say this based off of other things I've been hearing lately, is we will not lose to Olympiacos in these 2 regular season games, but we will drop points that we shouldn't to other teams.
Wow.
So I think we will win at home, draw away, but we will be dropping points to teams that we should not. So I'm not saying we're going to win both games and we're going to overshoot first place, but I think, if that makes sense, we're going to do well against Olympiacos, but we're going to be dropping points to the lower level teams. All right, so what are yours?
So you're saying, sorry, before we move on, and I want you to comment on mine too if you have anything to add. You're saying basically that we will lose the title because of drop points against mid to lower table teams, not because of our results in the derby.
Correct.
Okay, interesting. I like it. All right, so mine. My number 1 is that we will wait until the final week of the transfer window to sign a midfielder or a striker. So I think all PAOK fans agree that we need a striker. You obviously mentioned it, and I agree 100%. And also, like a midfielder in terms of a defensive midfielder, if we could get one, because the City obviously isn't trusted in most situations. Mm-hmm. So I think, those 2 positions, probably a right back now as well. So I'll throw a right back in there. And as seems to be most winter transfer windows, PAOK knows well in advance what they need to sign, what position, and all of January goes almost before they make a move. And that's really frustrating. So my prediction is that one of those positions where we need a player, it won't be until the last week until we fill we fill that void. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope, January, in the first week, we get 2 or 3 players, bang, 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 and we're off and running into the second half of the season.
I agree with that. So I have nothing to say about that one.
My second one, and I think it's a big call. Assuming the competition gets underway, we will make the cup final this year for a 4th time in 5 years. I think that the league is going to be tough to win. I mean, we need to improve on performances, so I think the cup is probably our best chance for silverware. And I really think that Garcia and the team know that. And I think that, assuming it gets underway, because there are some doubts about it potentially starting, this is Greece after all, I think that we're going to make the cup final.
So at first I was gonna say it depends on the draw, but then you added on the point of this is gonna be our best chance at winning any silverware, and I do agree with that, and I think that our players are gonna be more fired up than this than maybe Olympiacos players will be, or other teams, but. I still think it depends on the draw, because if we get Olympiacos in the quarterfinals or semifinals, right, it's gonna be a very difficult game. But I do like that. I do like that. I think that's realistic. I think that it's going to be like when we first won it, right? How big of a deal it was. I could see it being something like that where it's kind of a building block.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important. Us coming off a double winning year, we didn't win anything last season. Didn't even make the Europa League group stage. So this year, I think it's important to really contend for silverware. The league is obviously priority, but the cup is a great opportunity to also add something to the trophy cabinet. And number 3, and this is my most probable of all of, I think I can include yours in this as well, my most probable thing that will happen second half of the season, Olympiacos will accuse PAOK of being responsible for starting COVID. Because as we know, right, PAOK is the most evil organization in the world, responsible for famine and for war and for everything. So, I mean, it's just a matter of time, right, before Garapapas and some of their other employees come out and say that Savidis is behind COVID and PAOK started it. So, I mean, I think it's just a matter of time. I don't know if you think that, that'll happen.
I love it. I love it, and I think that's so true. Every negative thing that's happened in 2020 will be because of PAOK and Savidis, and let's just run them out of Greece. I'm going to stop before I have another sip and I keep saying more things than I should. But, I love it. And that's 2 days in a row, 2 episodes in a row that you've surprised me. And I love you for it even more. So good job. Good job.
Let me just say, obviously that's all in jest. I'm more just making fun of the ridiculous situation in Greek football where they're constantly just bickering at each other. It really annoys me. But honestly, man, it wouldn't surprise me if something like this happens at some point because Greece is a bit of a circus. So...
Okay, I think we all know that, but yeah, it's just we're not gonna get into this conversation. But it's dumbfounded, and it's crazy how every little thing that happens, accusation from both sides, right? But one side doesn't look at it both sides, as we do on here on this show. So it's I think both sides are to blame. I think both sides need to grow up, right? If they want to become professional teams and professional organizations and well respected, I think everyone needs to grow up. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%, man. Like I said in last episode, I watch football to watch football. I don't watch it to hear what, someone who would have been unemployed if his cousin didn't work for Olympiacos has to think, or someone who would have been unemployed if his uncle wasn't, played for PAOK back in the day. I don't care, man. I want to watch my team play football. I want to talk about why we won, why we lost. I don't want to, all this other shit is it just takes away. It's not why I watch football. It's not why I do this with you. We do this for some fun to discuss, our team. So,
right.
Yeah, it just, everyone needs to, like you said, man, grow up and just be more professional. Like I said last time, you don't see this happening in the Premier League. Tottenham has lost their last 2 games. Mourinho is probably the most Greek level European coach in terms of he can, get a little bit, but he's he's like 5% of what happens in Greece. So imagine explaining to an English person what happens in Greece. Like if you say, imagine Mourinho times 100.
Right.
Like what the fuck? Like it's crazy. But I'm with you. Everyone needs to grow up and just move on and just let the on pitch stuff do the talking.
Right. So that ends our mid-season report card review. Nice, quick, easy episode. Please let us know what you thought about anything, including Jono's accusation that Olympiacos is gonna blame COVID on PAOK. I love that. Make sure you subscribe to us on Instagram, YouTube. You follow us on Instagram. You subscribe on YouTube. You follow us. I think it's follow on Twitter. Let us know what you agree with, what you don't agree with. On Twitter, we're going to be posting polls regarding this episode, so please follow along. We wish you that you and your family have a safe holiday season, Christmas, New Year's. Everyone that's listening, whether you agree with what we've said or not, and said, this year has been shitty for probably everyone that's listening. So we just hope that the end of the year is better, that you're with your family, you're enjoying your time. You are going to have a great start to 2021, and hopefully that everything that you want will come to fruition. Jono, anything you want to add on?
No, just to echo your sentiments. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everyone. Hopefully it's a happy, healthy, and safe new year, and a much better 2021 than it was 2020.
Yep. Thank you all for listening. This was a great episode, fun episode, and we will talk to you next year. So have a good rest of 2020.